Om Bhurabhuva Satasavituravarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is video number 1 on Mundaka Upanishad. This video starts with introduction of Mundaka Upanishad. The Mundaka Upanishad belongs to the Atharva Veda. It is also called a mantra Upanishad because it is written in verse, but it is not like the mantra section of the Vedas, intended to be used in the sacrifices or rituals. The Mundaka Upanishad teaches the knowledge of Brahma. The word Mundaka is derived from a root that signifies shaving. The instruction given in this Upanishad has the sharpness of a razor. It cuts off a man's error and ignorance like a razor. The name also suggests that this Upanishad is meant only for the seven-headed sannyasin who renounce all the actions prescribed for householders and devote themselves to the cultivation of Brahma Vidya or the knowledge of Brahma. The Mundaka Upanishad and the Prasna Upanishad both belongs to the Atharva Veda are said to be complementary. What is briefly stated in the one is elaborated in the other. The importance of Mundaka Upanishad can be recognized from the fact that this is the only Upanishad of the Atharva Veda which contains a verse. Chapter 1, Part 1, stanza number 6, directly used by Bhadrayana Vyasa in constructing an aphorism of the Vedanta Sutras, the most authoritative book on the Vedanta philosophy. Like some other Upanishads, the Mundaka Upanishad gives its instruction in the form of a dialogue between a disciple and his preceptor. The disciple, Saunaka, fully qualified for Brahma Vidya, asks Angiras the teacher, Revered sir, what is that by the knowing of which all this becomes known? Here one sees the passion of ancient Hindus for knowledge. The teacher replies that there are two kinds of knowledge and a seeker should acquire them both. They are called the lower knowledge and the higher knowledge. The lower knowledge includes the teaching of all the Vedas, the sections dealing with rituals and sacrifices and their auxiliaries. It endows a man with knowledge of the manifested universe and enables him to enjoy material prosperity on earth and happiness in heaven. By means of the higher knowledge, one realizes the imperishable truth. Dharma, the goal of the higher knowledge, is the ultimate cause of the universe and all beings. It may be noted here that the Vedic philosophers did not discourage secular knowledge or worldly happiness. On the contrary, they held that unless through experience one had learnt their unsubstantiality, one did not acquire the necessary mood for the cultivation of the higher knowledge. It is for this reason that a spiritual culture and material prosperity flourished side by side in ancient India. The second chapter of the first Mundaka deals with rituals which, when rightly carried out, enable their performers to go to heaven after death. But it is also pointed out that after the fruit has been enjoyed, they return to earth. One can never expect to cross the ocean of birth and death by the frail bark of sacrifices. Even life in Brahmaloka, which some fortunate souls may attain through worship of Saguna Dharma, does not constitute true immortality. That exalted celestial plane also belongs to the realm of relativity and is subject to destruction. Neither by sacrifice nor by worship of the deity can one transcend relativity. The aspirant for immortality must therefore turn away from both, renounce the world, repair to a qualified teacher, and obtain the knowledge of Brahma by means of which alone can be conquer time, space, and death. The second Mundaka describes Brahma in sublime poetry as the source of all things. It gives a spiritual interpretation of creation, the universe, man, nature, and action. As a discipline for attaining the knowledge of Dharma, meditation on Om, the symbol of supreme wisdom, is prescribed. The result of such meditation is complete illumination of the mind through the destruction of all doubts and ignorance. The third Mundaka states that the individual soul is separated from Dharma through ignorance. Its suffering is the result of the erroneous idea that it is entirely helpless and dependent on matter. Through the knowledge of its oneness with Brahma, it rediscovers its innate greatness and overcomes grief. The discipline for the unitive knowledge is the practice of truthfulness, chastity of body and mind, and concentration. This knowledge cannot be attained through mere study of the scriptures or through intellect, nor by one who is weak, slothful, or attached to worldly values. The knowledge of Dharma becomes Brahma. The Upanishad concludes with a repetition of the warning that the knowledge of Dharma must not be pursued by one who has not already observed the various religious duties prescribed for the purification of the mind and who has not practiced concentration. Sri Shankaracharya's instruction. Introduction. Om. Salutation to Brahma. The Mundaka Upanishad, beginning with the text Om Brahma, the maker of the universe, belongs to the Atharva Veda. The Upanishad, for the purpose of extolling its content, states at the very outset how the knowledge contained therein was transmitted by preceptor to disciple. The great sages made mighty efforts to obtain this knowledge, for it is the means of realizing the highest good in life. The Upanishad praises the knowledge in order to create a taste for it in the mind of the hearer, for after the taste is created by the praise, he will eagerly seek it. The relationship between the knowledge and liberation as means to end will be subsequently stated in the passage beginning. The fetters of the heart are broken. The Upanishad first states that the knowledge denoted by the term lower knowledge, Apara Vidya, discussed in the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, and the rest, and consisting of merely mandatory and prohibitory injunctions, cannot destroy injunction, ignorance, avidya, which is the cause of samsara or relative existence. Next is distinguishes the higher knowledge. The word mundaka means literally one with a shaven head, and it is to say a sannyasi or monk. In obedience to Vedic injunctions, a sannyasi is required to shave his head in order to denote his complete renunciation of the ritualistic activities obligatory for a householder. The turf of hair which householders belonging to the three higher castes wear is required in the Vedic rites. The Mundaka Upanishad exhorts the practice of complete renunciation and is therefore particularly suited to a sannyasi. The Atharva Veda contains 28 Upanishads. Of these, Shankaracharya has written commentaries on the Parsana and the Mundaka, which are similar in nature. The infinite and immortal Brahma appears as the finite universe, the mortal Jiva on account of ignorance or avidya. Following the scriptural injunction, the embodied soul refrains from certain activities and engages in others for the purpose of enjoying happiness here and hereafter. The knowledge Pravidya from the lower knowledge in the passage beginning, fools dwelling in darkness, chapter 1, part 2, verse number 8. Ultimately, the Upanishad in the passage beginning, after having examined all these words which are gained by works. Chapter 1, part 2, verse number 12. Describes the knowledge of Brahma, which is the means to attainment of the Absolute and which can be obtained by the grace of the perceptor. Only after the aspirant has cultivated dispassion for all things considered as ends of worldly pursuit and as means to the realization of such ends. The result of this knowledge is repeatedly stated by the Upanishad in such passages as he who knows the Supreme Brahma verily becomes Brahma. Chapter 3, Part 2, verse 9, and enjoy here supreme immortality. Although people belonging to all stages of life, ashramas, are equally entitled to the knowledge of Brahma, yet the knowledge culminating in complete renunciation, sannyasa becomes the means to liberation, moksha, and not the knowledge combined with action. This is shown by such passages as who live in the forest unarmed. Chapter 1, Part 2, stanza number 11. And having purified their minds through the practice of sannyasa. Chapter 3, Part 2, stanza number 6. The knowledge of Dharma is incompatible with action. One realizing the identity of Atma and Brahma cannot perform action even in a dream. Knowledge is independent of the time factor. It is not the effect of any definite cause. Therefore, it is not reasonable to consider the knowledge of Brahma to be conditioned by time. The knowledge that guides the individual soul in its worldly activities is called the lower knowledge. It is quite compatible with life in the relative world, but it does not enable one to destroy ignorance and attain immortality. Through illusion, one walking in the moonlight takes an austere shell to be a piece of silver. This illusion can be got rid of only by true knowledge of the shell and not by any other means. The knowledge of Brahma is called the higher knowledge because it is the means to realization of the highest good. The knowledge of rituals and sacrifices is called the lower knowledge because it is the means to enjoyment of transitory happiness in the relative world. According to the Vedic pronouncement, independent study of the scriptures unaided by a teacher does not bring the desired result of liberation. The fruit of the knowledge of Brahma is the utter annihilation of suffering and the realization of immeasurable bliss. When Sankara speaks of incompatibility of work and the knowledge of Brahma, he generally means by the former the rituals and ceremonies prescribed by the Vedas for the attainment of a definite result, namely happiness here and hereafter. Work also includes philanthropic activities and all duties in general which are associated with the ideas of a doer, an instrument. If it be suggested that knowledge and action are compatible, as indicated by the fact that the teachers among the householders handed down the knowledge of Brahma to their disciples, it can be said in reply that this mere indication cannot override a well established truth. The coexistence of darkness and light cannot be made possible even by 100 rules, much less by mere indications. After thus describing the desired and the result of the study of the Upanishad, we now proceed to write a short commentary on it. The knowledge of Brahma Vidya is called Upanishad because it destroys the whole host of evils, such as lying in a mother's womb, birth, old age, and disease. For those who approach it intimately and with reverence and devotion, or because it enables them to attain the Supreme Brahma, or because it utterly shatters such things as ignorance and desires, which are the cause of samsara or embodied existence, for such is the etymological meaning of the word Upanishad. And a result, the time factor is very important in the performance of Vedic actions. Work bears fruit in the course of time, but the knowledge of Dharma transcends time, space, and the causal law. It is not the result of any action. This eternal knowledge is veiled by ignorance and reveals itself when the ignorance is removed. Invocation. Om, may we, O gods, hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we, O worshipful God, see with our eyes what is good. May we, strong in limbs and body, sing your praise and enjoy the life allotted to us by Parjapati. Om, peace, peace, peace. So I conclude this introductory video here. Next video will start with chapter number 1 of first Mundaka. Thank you for watching this video. Please share, comment and like the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar my dear friends.